Now what?
Now, Tulip, it's time to talk about the Preacher series finale. I, for one, cannot believe it's over. For the next few minutes, I'm going to share my favorite Easter eggs and comic book references from the finale. Let me know your favorites from End of the World in the comments below. As always, this video is packed with a ton of spoilers. Make sure you've seen the TV show and read the comics. If I had to choose one moment I enjoyed most from this episode, it has to be seeing the Saint of Killers take God's throne. The iconic moment we remember from the comics was perfectly adapted for the screen. But let's rewind back a bit and see how we got there. Early on in the episode, it didn't look too good for Jesse, as the Saint of Killers could have easily blown a hole right through him. But thanks to Genesis's parents, Jesse was given more time.
The parents will not be happy. Looks like someone brought a gun to a knife fight.
By the way, did that line remind anyone else of this iconic scene? Ultimately, the Saint kills both the Archangel and Demon because he's the Saint and can literally kill anyone or anything. But then something shocking happens. The Preacher talks the Saint into confessing his sins and kills him with his own magic sword. This, of course, allows Jesse to stop the apocalypse and send the entire Grail in search of God. Fast forward 2 years later and we catch up with Jesse and Tulip on the run again from the Rodriguez brothers. Notice the horse that's running in front of them in this shot. This definitely feels like a fun homage to Jesse and Tulip's ending in the comics. Remember that final shot of them riding off into the sunset on that stolen horse? Anyways, we soon find out that God has been tracked down. He's been hiding out at, fittingly, the Alamo. We knew this was coming since it was heavily teased throughout the season, but instead of a big fight between Jesse and Cassidy like in the books, we get a casual conversation between Jesse and God.
I love you, Jesse Custer. Do you believe me?
Now, Jesse won't give in to God's demands, who is pathetically begging for his love. He uses Genesis to toss God around a bit and then decides to free Genesis. God eventually returns to heaven to find all of the angels slaughtered. He even calls them the heavenly host, as in an army, just like in the books.
You slaughtered the heavenly host.
This is when we get that iconic showdown between William, aka the Saint of Killers, and God. And just as it went down in the books, once he kills God, the Saint can finally rest on his throne. Another death that is mirrored from the books, Featherstone. Just like in the comics, she pulls a gun on Hairstar after finding out how much of a monster he truly is. Unfortunately, Star is one step ahead of her and shoots her dead before she can pull the trigger. Surprisingly, Star survives this story, which didn't happen in the books, as he had his head blown off by Tulip. Much like Star, another character that got a second chance was Eugene Root. As expected, he survived that car accident, and while he was in recovery at the hospital, a doctor gave him the advice to kill himself. Horrible bedside manner. Eugene knows better. He didn't need anyone's pity, and he found his voice, his rage, his anger. He refuses to give up. He fully recovers and chases his dream, ditching the top 40 covers for some punk rock. We see a crowd forming around him on the street and can assume that he becomes a rock star like he did in the books. And if you need any further confirmation, well, we get this shot later on. A kid wearing a shirt with his face on it. Eugene's tour. World tour. Great to see that Eugene found his voice and that millions of people around the world were listening. In a departure from the books, it was beautiful to see that Jesse and Tulip had started a family together. Also an auto repair shop, which is pretty fitting for Tulip. We get a really fun Easter egg when they go to the drive-in to watch a movie. Of course, it's a John Wayne flick. And fittingly, it's the Alamo, in which John Wayne plays frontierman Davy Crockett. One thing we know from the books is that Jesse is a huge fan of the Duke and used to watch his movies with his dad when he was a child. It's good to see that he's passing down the tradition. Fast forward yet again, this time 40 years into the future, and baby Custer is all grown up, looking down at her parents' gravesite. She also looks exactly like Tulip. Pay extra close attention here and check out the words on Jesse's tombstone, one of the good guys. That's a direct reference to what John Custer told his son before he was killed, a callback to both the comics and the TV show.
Jesse, much bigger things are coming for you. Much bigger things than this here. So you gotta be one of the good guys. 'Cause why?
'Cause there's way too many of the bad.
You promised me?
I promise, Daddy.
Cassidy shows up, having never aged a damn day, to show his respects as well. And based upon the conversation, we can assume that Cassidy never reunited with Jesse and Tulip, which would align more closely with how it ended for the trifecta in print. When it comes to the comics, Jesse was killed by one of Star's soldiers, and Cassidy commits suicide by sunlight. They're both resurrected, however, after it's revealed that Cass made a deal with God. Jesse reunites with Tulip and rode off into the sunset, while Cassidy returned to Earth as a normal human being and vowed to be a better person. Sure, they went their separate ways, but always had each other on their minds. But when it comes to the show, the story wraps up with Cassidy searching for something new. Remember, he's lived long enough to have seen and done everything. He's tired of this eternal life and ready to see what's waiting for him next. So fittingly, he walks off into the sunlight. Perhaps he will get to meet his friends after all. And there you have it, guys. Preacher is over. Let me know what you guys thought of the finale in the comments below. I think it's only appropriate to leave you with this.
The end of the